Pro Circuit Super Tournament in La Crosse, Wisconsin. The Mississippi River in La Crosse has a lot to offer for bass anglers. There's an abundant mix of cover, including docks and other man-made cover, and natural banks with grass and wood that offer a perfect home for largemouth and smallmouth bass. This year, pros from the FLW Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit and the MLF Bass Pro Tour combined for a super tournament in La Crosse, where local favorites Tom Monsoor and Matthew Stefan battle it out against anglers like Brian Thrift, Brent Ayler, and Edwin Evers, who won the 2019 Major League Fishing Red Crest in La Crosse, Wisconsin. The championship round of the 2019 Red Crest started off quickly, with several anglers able to catch scoreable bass after bass.
Yes, sir. I'll put one in the mouth.
3 pounds, 1 ounce.
I feel like any hook set's gonna be a 4 or 5 pounder.
There's a big one. There's a big one. That's what I expected to catch in here right here, boys. Check this one out. Get in the boat. Yes.
That's a nice one there. Yeah, that's a big one.
Golly, there's one. Better.
Just hope I can keep it going, you know. I don't know, but I'm liking what I'm seeing.
In the third period, Edwin Evers went on a massive flurry that never seemed to let up, and he never looked back on his way to becoming the 2019 Red Crest champion. The last time the Pro Circuit was in La Crosse was in 2017. Local favorite Matthew Steffen started out strong on the first day with 18 pounds even. The final 2 days featured some of the best-known anglers in fishing, like David Dudley, Joshua Weaver, and the GOAT himself, Andy Morgan.
Good chunk.
Let me catch this fish.
Ah, yes, sir. We're gonna catch him again. That's an old chunk. Yeah, baby. Yes, sir. That's the kind of get you back in it.
If history is any indication, the 2020 FLW Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit Super Tournament in La Crosse, Wisconsin is sure to please, with 15-plus pound bags likely to be thrown onto the scales each day. There's no telling who will come out on top in a fishery like the Mississippi River, where any and all tactics will be in play. As Major League Fishing and FLW Pro Circuit anglers unite to create one of the largest fields in bass fishing, it truly is anyone's game. Welcome, bass fishing fans, to the upper Mississippi River. There is our field of 200 anglers earlier this morning, getting ready to blast off for day 2 of this event out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, for stop number 5 of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit Super Tournament. Today is cut day, so only the top 50 will be moving on to fish tomorrow, and only 10 of them will fish the 4th and final day. Almost $1.3 million up for grabs during this 4-day event, with chance of $160,000 going to the top finisher. Who will it be? Some of these anglers are making a stronger case than others. We'll talk about those in a little bit. Good morning, everyone. I'm Travis Moran, coming at you live from the FLW studios here in Benton, Kentucky, along with some familiar faces, Red Gold Tomatoes Pro Todd Hollowell and MLF's Marty Stone. Marty, you made a bold prediction about the frog not being a big factor in a Mississippi River tournament. And I'd say you're right. I think you were correct on that. Any more bold predictions going on today?
Todd, actually, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that today's fishing is going to get a little bit better. And the reason I'm going to say that is yesterday these anglers lost an hour and a half, so they lost that opportunity for a morning bite. I think that caused the weights to be a little bit lower. And the anglers got a little bit more dialed in with that river. On these river fish, it's all about the here and now. It's all about figuring out what you found in practice. Is that going to hold up? And we've got another day of stable weather, okay? And I think there's going to be a little bit more wind. I predict that the weights will go up a touch more, a little bit higher for the added length that we've got in today. But it's still going to be a grind out there today.
Absolutely. Todd, Marty predicting it to get better. That's because yesterday it was a grind. Our anglers really struggled. We got some highlights. Why don't you talk us through some of the tactics that played and some things that really fell short?
Yeah, La Crosse is a grind this week. Not the La Crosse that we've seen maybe in years past, not 50 to 100 bites a day. These guys are working hard for 10, 20 bites, and a guy who got it done yesterday is Mark Daniels Jr., Marty.
Yeah, I really like the moves that he made. He started out in that Black River area and then moved behind the Goose Island area. I think what we'll see with Daniels Jr. is going to that productive order early. Now we're looking at David Dudley. He went down to pool 9. He's got the best of both worlds working, the largemouth and the smallmouth. Started on a point, got a limit of smallmouth, and then moved to the lily pads.
Another guy that got it done yesterday, Matt Stefan, made a late charge after we went off the air yesterday. He went up to pool 7. He's fishing a lot of local knowledge. This was a guy we expected to do well from Wisconsin. Had a great first day.
We can make the argument that he not only salvaged the day, possibly the season and his hopes for a championship bid. Now we're looking at the Red Crest winner 2019, Edwin Evers. We watched this guy grind through the whole day, and then when the smoke finally cleared, he ended up with 12 pounds of bass on the scales, sitting in 40th place. But guys, this thing's tight. I look from 10th to 50th, there's 2 pounds, 7 ounces of separation. When I look from 50th to 102nd, there's 2 pounds and 6 ounces of separation. Edwin Evers caught some really quality bass yesterday. The key is can he land on one of those 4-pound bites today and get into that top 50 and hopefully another top 10 for him.
Yep. Yeah. And now, Todd, why don't you break down the map for us? We really saw all 3 pools produce fish yesterday. Why don't you break down some of those key areas?
You bet. La Crosse is a famous fishery, one we've gotten used to seeing at this high level of sport. 3 pools in play here at La Crosse, Marty. Pool 7, Pool 8, Pool 9, 60-plus miles these guys can run. And each pool is very similar. At the very top of the pool, we're seeing river conditions. Get down to the middle, it spreads out into a delta, lots of chutes, lots of backwater. When you get to the bottom of the pool, it's more like a lake. But both species in play here at La Crosse, largemouth and smallmouth. And Marty, these guys have lots of different ways they can catch them here.
Yeah, they really do. And you're talking about the fish mixing with the largemouth and smallmouth. You just never know in this place. But I break it down to where you're looking at the cover being the key. On the main river, it's all about what can form a break. What forms that current break? Is it a laydown? Is it a sandbar, riprap, wing dams? Is it a spillway? Something has to break that current for the bait fish to get behind. And then you go to the back channel areas. And that's more about the hard cover. There's laydowns in there, boat docks, marina, and the vegetation as well. And the vegetation on this place is a coontail, milfoil, pencil reeds, but the main player this week is all the eelgrass that we have on here that's got the duckweed on top. And then when you go straight up backwater, it's a combination of all that, but that's where you're going to see only largemouth.
Marty, is there any cover that this place doesn't have? What you just mentioned is unbelievable. Any kind of flavor that these bass fishermen are looking for, they're going to be able to find on the Mississippi River. And for you guys watching at home, you're going to get to see it live because we have 6 cameras on our top 6 anglers to start the day, plus a live drone and our updates from the marshals that are out on the boats. So a lot of coverage you guys are going to get to have, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or on FLWfishing.com. We will be bringing it to you for the next 6 hours and then plus the next 2 days of the tournament as well. Well, one thing to keep in mind, you guys watching on YouTube or Facebook at 9 a.m., we will be stopping that feed and just moving over to FLWfishing.com, where you will always find your most extensive coverage with the live unofficial leaderboard that you are seeing on the screen right now. There is roughly our top 10 to start the morning. Some guys making a move quickly.
Yeah, cameras with the top 6 guys today. Scott Wiley, Jacob Wheeler, Derek Snavely all had great first days, got off to a great start. Joey Cifuentes, Jesse Wiggins, and Ron Nelson are Angler of the Year leader, Marty.
Yeah, and I can almost tell you guys, we'll talk about this later today, you can about stick a fork in that race. I'm going to call it's done. Nelson had a strong day yesterday, and there's a lot of anglers near around him that laid, I'm not going to say goose eggs, but it was some goose. It wasn't good for them. So Nelson he's running away with this thing. And if he backs that up with another strong finish here, I think this race is his to lose.
A lot of guys fighting for the points, trying to make that title championship. We're starting the day, looks like, with Jesse Wiggins.
Yep, 30-year-old out of Logan, Alabama.
No keepers yet this morning. I started on a new spot, or not a new spot, but a spot where I caught my biggest one yesterday. I thought I'd start here just to see if anything was up, but didn't get any bites. So caught 4 or 5 in here yesterday with the sun high as it could be, middle of the day, and I thought it'd be better in the morning, but it's not looking like it. Yesterday when I caught them, the shad was just active in here. They were popping everywhere. They're popping a little bit today, but not as good as they do in the evenings. So maybe it's just an evening deal, but I'm fixing to pack her up and go up to where I started at yesterday. Just wanted to give it a chance. Do what? What do you think you learned from yesterday? After yesterday, I learned that there's some good fish in the areas I've been fishing, so I just got to grind some out. I mean, key is for me is just to get some bites. It just helps me so much just to get a few bites, like that right there. Pulled off. Don't think it was a big one. It didn't feel big, but it was running. He bit it like one of those good ones, but it's a good sign, though. I mean, I just don't think he was that big. He was moving with that sucker. That's the way they did it yesterday.
Wiggins is way up in the Black River area, and he committed to that. And he said that, and I've seen this in past events up here, there's more shad in that area than he found anywhere else on the river. But there's little bite windows that open up, and he did a lot of his damage yesterday with a shaky head and a flick shake.
Conditions clearing up a lot earlier this morning. We had a fog delay yesterday, which postponed the tournament a couple hours. And now over to Ron Nelson, starting the morning in 6th place. Our current Angler of the Year right now, or leader for Angler of the Year race.
Guys, you see that ripple in the water right there is one of the reasons I think today's going to be a lot better. I mean, it was 2 o'clock before we ever saw that.
Catching small fish this morning. We got more company on my stretch here. Had nobody on it yesterday, and all of a sudden you got guys coming in to say, hey, you're catching fish, let's go see what he's fishing at. So I've had to kind of rush through my stuff a little bit this morning just to try to, I'll settle down, we'll catch them. Something 4 or 5, short fish already. Definitely got a little breeze this morning, feels good. These fish are just constantly resetting, moving around with this current. You'll get a little pot of them when they get set up, and all of a sudden you'll catch a few. Like that. Little pit. If you guys watching back home, you see I'm using that 13 Fishing's trash panda. It's been getting trashed here the last few days. So it's been good. Number one, thank you, Lord. Not a big one, but start. It's a start. It just bugs me a little bit when guys don't respect you to come in and try to fish the water you're fishing. There's more than one too. There's probably a half dozen bass right here in this little mat.
Wow.
You notice that strike was a really good aggressive strike. That's how they're definitely biting when they're around other fish. Lots of fun though, that frog. These fish are just constantly cycling around through this current. I know I get enough bite probably in that corner over there, but kind of want to sit here for a minute. Beautiful day though, no fog this morning, which was nice. Gotta catch them today though.
Guys, we make the argument that if he doesn't zero last year, first day at Rayburn, we're looking at an angler that could possibly be back-to-back AOI winner. I mean, he finished ninth, won Rookie of the Year last year, and I still find that quite entertaining, 44-year-old Rookie of the Year. But talking to Ron before our last event, he had different priorities in life. He wanted to take care of family, wanted to take care of business. It's established, and I think it shows in his fishing. There's a sense of calm about him that matches his years and maturity as well.
He's obviously locked in this morning on this mat. He said he knew there were multiple fish, Marty, in this area. One of the things that stands out to me is he's from Michigan, right? And a lot of times these northern guys get this rap that they're just smallmouth guys. But I have a lot of friends up in that part of the country, and listen, a lot of vegetation in Michigan, a lot of grass. These guys have a lot of experience pitching and flipping, throwing a frog. And the thing that stands out to me about Ron Nelson is how versatile he is. We've gotten to see him multiple times on live this year. And, to win Angler of the Year at this level, a guy has to be able to do it all. And Ron is certainly showing that he's capable of that.
Yeah, when I've traveled throughout my career in the state of Michigan, I never realized how much water up there. And I remember early in my career, there was this skinny kid from Kalamazoo, Michigan that was pretty
What was
good
his
up there.
name?
It's some
Kevin?
Jonathan somebody. Yeah, I think it was Kevin Van Dam, KVD. But man, that state in itself is just loaded with great fisheries that are very diverse. And this guy, I mean, our next event's supposed to be at Erie. And I said when we started this thing at Chickamauga, if the field doesn't catch him and they let him get to Erie with the lead, forget it. Handing him the trophy at day one and let's just be done with this race because it's going to be over with. I think yesterday he pretty much, because of what he did and what the rest of the anglers below him did, just as pretty much won it. Travis, I'm going to give you another bold prediction today. We're going to see the guys, again, struggle with a frog. Not saying we're not, and here's why today. It's got an east in the wind. I remember many years ago sitting down with Rojas having a long conversation. And part of that conversation is how do we know what days they'll bite a frog and what days they won't? And his statement that stuck with me all the years is the wind has east in it at all. Put it in the rod box.
I like it. I like it. There is the split screen that everybody's been wanting.
Today, it's completely different. Where you're like, man, they're not going to bite it, and they just annihilate it. Big drum out here.
This is a treat to me. We're watching the best angler in the FLW Pro Circuit, Ron Nelson, and we're watching the #1 ranked fisherman in the world right there. I mean, you talking about, if you're a bass fishing fan, you're getting it all right now. And at some point in time, we run out of accolades for what Wheeler's done. And I've got some interesting thoughts I'll share with you guys throughout the day with that. But man, the run he's been on the last 2 years is incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. Jacob told me in practice he had one area where he felt like he could catch some big fish, but it was a major commitment. Ran in there first day of the event yesterday, caught 2 good ones. Nelson's hooked up.
Number 2. Little guy, but should measure. Maybe a little stubby guy. That's 15. That was fun. Catch another. Yeah, don't let it further. I'm going to fish that corner again. We can kind of go back and forth. But you're good, yeah.
In case you weren't with us yesterday on live, we got to see a lot of frog fishing, and we got to see a lot of different options, Marty, that La Crosse gives to this playing field. We're going to see guys catch them a lot of different ways, but is there anything more scenic? You know, is there anything you'd rather be doing than in one of these backwaters, fishing these pads and these cheese mats? And
I love
awesome bites.
I love the fact that he's mixing it up a little bit. We've saw him punch a little. We've saw him throw the frog. You know, you guys have been around me long enough to know that I'm a big believer in areas. It's all about an area when you find it. And he's obviously found a good area. And every one of our guys that were up in the top 6, top 10, they all had a big fish. Big fish, and big being something over 3 3/4.
Oh, wow. He's got another one.
Look at that shorty. Look at the shorty.
Now, he really seems to be working these spots thoroughly. Marty, does this go into your point about being around an area with fish? He knows these fish are moving in and out of here, and that he doesn't have to keep covering water. He just has to make enough casts that he's eventually going to hook up?
100%. I mean, we watched yesterday, Edwin Evers, if you guys remember on live, work that frog painstakingly slow, talking about what a small strike zone they've got. And again, I took a little grief going, oh, you're saying frog's not going to work on light. No, I'm telling you, it's not the traditional Mississippi River where you can dump that trolling motor on 36 high and cover miles and miles and expect to generate 50 bites. You better have an area, and you better be committed to that area. And with Ron, we've watched him catch 2 fish out of this mat, but probably make 20 casts. You know, if you're a running gun guy, you've just made a cast or 2 on that particular point, and you burn through it. These fish aren't biting that frog; they're reacting to that frog. There's a big difference between an aggressively feeding fish and a fish that reacts. And the fish that reacts, that you have to make trigger, is a fish that you're going to have to pester into biting with multiple casts. What he's doing here is no different than a crankbait thrown on a lay down with 15 to 20 casts. When you do that, you're triggering the fish to bite. But man, it takes composure to be able to do that, though, and have the patience and the confidence to make those repetitive casts. We saw a lot of good anglers yesterday bomb, lay an egg up at the top of that AOY race. Okay. And I think most of them just went too fast.
Marty, you've got some great info that I want you to kind of break down later for us with the levels of this river and kind of how it's changed the fishery this year. But the one thing that I heard last night in talking to some of these guys was key areas. small areas that have groups of fish. One guy we're getting our first look at this morning, Derek Snavely, off to the right, 40 years old, from East Tennessee, Piney Flats, Tennessee, just down the road from Jason Abram, who we saw win an event earlier this year. But Derek told me, he said, man, I've got like 2 areas that I got all of my bites out of. I don't know if they're going to hold up. If they do, I can probably keep going. If they don't, I'm in trouble. But you're right, small key areas, and you kind of called that coming into this event. There were going to be guys who were just camped in a little 25, 50-yard stretch, and will they last 3 or 4 days? That's what I'm curious to see. But Derek Snavely, we saw miss on the frog here this morning. And the thing with the frog, Marty, you got to get a lot of bites, right? You know, you can't just get 5 bites on a frog and expect to weigh in 5 fish. You're going to miss some.
That's a great point. It really is, especially on this river. I mean, you generate 50 bites, you swing 70%. Next thing you know, you've caught 35 fish. That's a good day. You can forgive the sin. You throw a frog all day and get 8 bites and swing on 70%, but you're barely going to have an opportunity to catch a limit. But I mean, how many casts do we watch Nelson now make on this one point? That is maturity, that's composure, that's experience, that's not letting the moment get bigger than you. There's just, for the people at home, that's hard to do.
But you can't tell the difference, because yesterday I thought a 4-pounder was a grinnell. But I'm feeling good about it. I mean, I had 3 bites in about 20, 30 minutes, and not even got to my juice spot yet. And the best thing about it is I didn't see anybody in here close to me yesterday.
Marty, maybe you can elaborate on some of the things that clue you in to getting you confidence that there are that many fish down there. I know that 99% of people throwing a frog would have gone through the areas he just went, which are great areas. Apparently, they've got fish in them and made their cast and not caught in him and kept moving along. What makes an angler like this really slow down and have that confidence that those fish are there and that they will eventually bite?
The difference is in an angler, are you believing in the pattern or are you believing in an area? And with Nelson's experience, he realizes he's got an area that has fish. And I bet if we really got to spend some time with him in the boat, he would draw you the circle where that area is. So if you've got an area, don't be in a hurry to blow through it, because you're not going to run a pattern on this river this week and be successful. Run it from one end of the dam to the next, down to the other. You're going to lock down in some areas, and then you're going to have to make repeated casts to make these fish trigger. And that just comes with maturity and experience. I mean, we've been on him 20 minutes as he moved the boat 10 yards. And now he's changing the angles, which everything he's doing is, he's making the most difficult fish in the world bite. And that's to get one to react that really doesn't want to feed. And Travis, what happened on these rivers too is when you get a good area, they'll keep coming. There's a reason those fish are there. Bait, water clarity, current, all the combinations are right. And when you've got a good area, they will just keep piling into that small area.
Well, that was probably a pike because it just broke me off completely. I mean, it just cut my line. Dang. I'll retie that in a minute. Another thing that I figured out is you can't get in a hurry when you're doing this. You've got to be so methodical, especially if you know that there's fish around. I mean, I fished fast in practice, just trying to get bites and not trying to catch, actually. Just wanted them to show themselves. But once you find a few, you've got to slow down. And then you got to capitalize on every opportunity you have, which is, it's hard frog fishing. I mean, it's, if you can bat 75% when you're frog fishing, I consider that a pretty good average as far as your hookup ratio, hook to land ratio, or bite to land. But the one good thing about it is I've got a long day today. I had about 3.5 hours to fish yesterday. And I didn't get to fish all my areas where I got bites in practice. But I actually had a super tough practice the first 2 days, and then the last day of practice I found these fish and got a lot of bites. And it's a world of difference what switching pools can do on this river. I don't have any experience up here, but it was like a light switch came on coming from one pool to another as far as getting bites. I'm just hoping these pike don't mess my frogs up, because I've only got like 2 left, or well, 1 left that I caught my fish on yesterday, and 2's already got it this morning. But luckily they didn't put any big teeth mark gashes in it, and it's still working pretty good. It seems to be anyway. I probably ordered 30 different frogs from Tackle Warehouse before I came up here, just in case, for this specific reason, because you get so many bites.
Here's a look at some of those pike he is talking about on our Phoenix replay.
I think it is. Dang, another one. That sucker will tear it up.
Cats, dogs, and sharks all coexisting.
4 or 5 pounders, not the right kind.
There's one other observation, from watching Snavely versus Ron Nelson. Derek seems to be fishing more traditionally, making a little bit longer casts. Ron Nelson seems to be right on top of these little areas that he's catching his frog fish and working those angles. Is it just because you're now able to power pull down and you're able to be quieter? Does any of that stick out, that Ron Nelson is so close to those little areas?
What I see, Marty, is there's no wind where Snavely's fishing, and where Ron is at, he's got a nice little wind blowing up through that chute right there, and a lot of times it'll push those fish out closer to the edge of those mats, make them more aggressive, if you will. No wind up there in the top left of your screen where you're looking at Snavely, and you got to be a little bit more stealthy. Stay back, make long casts. What are your thoughts, Mr. Stone?
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing on the wind with Ron, and also he's more in the lake area, and it looks like Snavely's in a backwater area having to stay a greater distance off there. But the wind is the big key. You get something to break up that surface, they'll let you get up there a little bit closer to them.
There's a little more current right here than what I would prefer. I think I'm just going to blow through this kind of fast and see if I can get a bite, but get on up here to the juicy spot.
Watching Wiggins up there in that upper right-hand box, that's the first time we've really seen an angler fishing spillways, and he told me that was part of the routine for the day.
I also think it makes a difference I've not got any bites reeling it against the current or working it against the current yesterday and the day before. Maybe that's just in my head, but I think a big difference or a big factor is your angles.
You're hearing the voice of Derek Snavely in your top left screen there on the quad screen. Brought in 14.5 pounds yesterday on day one.
Bottom right hand, Nelson hooked up again. Don't know if that's going to measure or not, but it's going to be close. I think it will.
We've got Ron unofficially 3 fish for 4.5 pounds. We'll see if this makes number 4. Got to be 14 inches here this week on the Mississippi River, and that one looks like it's going to make the cut.
And talking to Ron Nelson last night, his kind of magic number was 15, but it wasn't the weight. He says he needs about 15 bites, and he feels comfortable that he will end up getting 1 or 2 of those 3-pound class fish. If he can get 15 bites, he can get the limit he wants heading back to the scales. And it looks like he's well on his way this morning.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, Mr. Stone, and say we're looking for one more bite out of Mr. Ron Nelson to probably lock up his Angler of the Year. You know, he came into this event with about a 30-point lead over John Cox and John Canada. And John Canada, a friend of his, made a big gamble yesterday. Travis and I were talking about this morning, went down to pool 9. Things did not work out for John Canada. He's found himself in the bottom of the field. So when you look at that point standing, guys, there's really 60 points between Ron Nelson and Spencer Shuffield, maybe the only guy left that can catch him. And I think that Ron's probably going to put some distance in between even those 60 points going into the last event.
Oh, 100% agree. I mean, Shuffield's got to have a magical day today. We already see that Ron's he's going to get it done. He'll have his limit and then some. But then Spencer was 40th place after yesterday's competition. And everybody else, with the exception of Spencer in that top 10, finished 83rd or lower after yesterday's competition.
Ouch.
I've never seen a race where that many people in the top 10 struggle. But it didn't surprise. We've got a lot of great young anglers out here on the FLW Pro Circuit. And the emphasis on young. Okay? So when you're good young anglers, you're going to have some hiccups along the way. You're going to have some speed bumps, learning curves. And a lot of these guys went through that yesterday.
In their first eyes up there on Joey Cifuentes in the top right of your screen, Berkeley Pro from Arkansas. Not wearing the cowboy hat this morning. We're going to talk about that later. Joey had a great first day. 14 pounds, 6 ounces. He said, all largemouth for me. He's got a place, he said, where I can go catch some smallmouth if I need to, but he really felt like his best shot at doing well in this event was the largemouth. If you were tuned in on day one, a lot of guys talking about, Marty, the healthy shad in a lot of these largemouth areas. Really, largemouth maybe more, just way more this week at La Crosse, and are going to play more of a factor than even prior events where smallmouth were a big deal. The largemouth are really healthy and good shape, it sounds like.
A lot of these shad are in the lake areas and the backwaters out of the main river. And before the event, I talked to Tom Mansour, who I call the godfather of the upper Mississippi, and he was explaining that after the shad spawned and they hatched out, now these shad are up in the 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch size, and they're big enough where they're a difference maker for these fish. When I was talking to Jesse Wiggins yesterday, talking about the Black River area, he said he's never in all his fishing seen so many shad so thick and in the area. So this river is loaded with a great bait population.
One guy we've not gotten to see yet, Scott Wiley, our day one leader, coming into day two, 15 pounds, 3 ounces to start his tournament off. I'm sure we're going to be with him later, maybe in tough cell service land if you're at home looking for him. And we've got the scoreboard rolling across the bottom of the screen, but if you're looking for your favorite angler, you can find that over at FLWfishing.com, the unofficial live leaderboard updated throughout the day.
We found out how unofficial it was yesterday. Those guys did not report. You know, like a bank robber robbing the bank and not admitting to it. You're talking about Wiley, man. That was a big day yesterday. 49th in the points coming in. We're going to take the top 50 of the FLW championship, and then they ended up leading the day. So that did a lot for his points race and FLW championship hopes.
A lot of stories unfolding. Kyle Hall on the board here with a 5-fish limit. One of our rookies, 2020 on the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, and making his case for being Rookie of the Year.
And the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit anglers fishing for some very valuable points to qualify for the Tackle Warehouse title tournament here, the Pro Circuit Championship, coming at the end of the month.
50 guys, Marty, 50 guys are going to have a shot at changing their life. And what's interesting about this title championship this year is a different format than these Pro Circuit anglers are used to seeing.
I'm really excited, too. We're bringing the best of the best with the FLW Pro Circuit, top 50 in there. And they're going to get to fish the Major League Fishing style format. Every fish counts, every scoreable bass. They're going to feel the pressure of the score tracker. They're going to get to have that official call a fish landing violation on them and have to sit down in the bottom of the boat. And we're going back to Sturgeon Bay, where we were there just a couple weeks ago. And to say that was a whack fest is an understatement of the world. Justin Lucas in that entire competition caught over 300 pounds of bass. This is going to be a good event. And we're not only bringing all the anglers together, we're bringing my crowd from Major League Fishing and hanging out with our crowd over here at FLW. So We got Chad McKee, JT Kinney, and the whole crew showing up. You guys, myself as well. Man, it's going to be a party.
And we'll be bringing that all on FLWfishing.com for our diehard viewers. They will have noticed that in the last event, we went from just covering the last 2 days of these events with live coverage to now doing all 4 days. Well, for our title event, that's a 6-day tournament, and we're going to be covering every single one of those days live.
Travis, you're going to get to feel the pain of 6 days, 9 hours in a row with us. That's what we're doing over at the Bass Pro Tour, and it's a grind, but man, it's a lot of fun. What a privilege it is to watch these anglers. Every one of my Bass Pro Tour guys last year that were new to the format, they kept talking about, wow, getting experience that every fish counts, getting experience in that score tracker, getting to know where you're at in the standings. And that's another part that I've been so excited about what we're doing right now. You know, we've got a 5-fish tournament going on, and there's different strategies. There's different things that come into play here for these 5-fish events. And then we have the Every Fish Counts over in the Bass Pro Tour, the best of both worlds. Both worlds have unique strategies. And then with the bottom left hand, bottom right hand, I think Nelson's hooked up again. Is this number 5 for him?
It was a monster of a hook set. If this keeps it, will be number 5. Oh. That's 2 short fish for Ron Nelson. So he's had 6 bites so far this morning on live.
Yeah, and I like this here. Again, he's mixing it up, a 1-2 punch. That right there was a punching fish. Big weight, soft plastics, going down up under those canopies and those mats. But what I'm talking about is the strategy of this. When you look at that bottom left-hand corner, Jacob Wheeler, when you start talking about accolades, he wins the first Bass Pro Tour event at Eufaula. Every Fish Counts. Turns around and has a great event at our heavy hitters where we're focusing on bigger fish, finishing in the top 10 there. Turns around and wins a Toyota Series at Pickwick, 5-fish limit. Then he wins the first ever Pro Circuit event at Chickamauga. And oh yeah, by the way, he caught the biggest fish. My point is, when you're a great angler, it doesn't matter the format. Don't give me the excuse that you're only a 5-fish guy or you're a guy that likes to catch every fish. When you watch this angler here, here's the MO. Give him the rules, he'll win. Whether it's 1 fish or 100 fish, just tell him how you got to play today and he'll come out on top. That's what great anglers do.
Yeah, so basically, quick rundown this morning. I've been throwing topwater a little, actually reeling a toad around right now. Really fishing new water. I just know I don't have enough. And if you could ever find a group of fish out here in this lake, concentrated, there's biggins out here. So I know, like, if I could just figure that out, I have a chance, but I know what I'm doing right now, other than just catching one here and there, is not going to probably be the deal. I got a couple little frog areas, but there was 2 of the areas I didn't fish yesterday because there was too many boats around. I just didn't really want to be in the middle of all that. The other area that I've been fishing didn't really have any boats, so I'm sort of not too awful worried about. I mean, there could be another angler fishing around that area, but I don't think there's a lot. But there's not a lot of fish there either. So I'm just trying to fish around and try to find some, or get a random bite here and there. That was the one thing that I did notice about fishing out here. You didn't find a concentration of them a lot of times, but if you did get a bite, a lot of times they were a little bit better than average. And, you know, it just gave you you might have to fish a mile and you finally get a bite. It's a thing, you could catch a 4 or 5 pounder, or 4 pounder anyway. Definitely even some 2.5. I think I caught a 2.5 and some 3s, and had one like probably close to 4 in practice. So, but you got to go 7 miles to catch one. Yeah, I mean, I've fished pool 7 quite a bit. You know, I had an event here in June a couple years back. And water was completely, water conditions were completely different. Water was high, and I've just liked this area. I've also had a cup event that I won the first round out here on Lake Onalaska. So I've had some experience fishing this pool a little bit. By no means am I an expert, but I definitely enjoy fishing pool 7 in general. They're just seems to suit my style a little bit. And last year, we had red crest, which the first few rounds were on pool 8, and the championship round was up here. I didn't make the championship round, but so I was able to sort of learn pool 8 that week, and that's sort of why my plan is to sort of use both pools. If this doesn't go down real well, you can always just run back, lock back down, and start working some other areas down there. And that's what I did yesterday. I caught some 3 or 4 keepers and called twice down in pool 8. But utilizing both pools can really allow you to catch a pretty solid bag. I just don't know why there's not a big one sitting right here. Definitely disappointed we haven't got we had like one blow up on a frog and nudge it, which they do that a lot. That's the one thing else. It's like those fish they've gotten used to seeing a frog and they know better. They see that frog sometimes, they'll be like, no, thank you. But the mat sort of helps sort of keep it hidden, and that allows them not to be able to see it. So you still have them blow up on it, but once they get a look at it, I've seen that frog right there before.
Well, it's that time for our first commercial break of the morning, which means our viewers over on Facebook and YouTube, we're going to be ending those streams. So if you want to continue watching all this live coverage unfold, make sure you head over to FLWfishing.com. Marty, you made a bold prediction this morning, said the bite is going to be better. It has been. We've seen a lot more fish catches so far, except for they've all come from this guy right here, Ron Nelson, leading the Angler of the Year points race, and just got his 5th fish. So guys, don't go anywhere. Plenty more action coming from Ron Nelson at least, and probably from the rest of our field when we come back here with our live coverage, day 2 on the Mississippi River.